watching as well, your audience. And I feel like, everybody feels alone, right? And it's nice to have somebody um, commiserate and validate that, especially if you don't hear it often.
I think this is something that Chinese young people are generally missing. I see a lot of very intimate bonding in these dorm situations or over online games or online chats. There's just this, I think it's also maybe it's even told, maybe I just haven't read it yet, but I was going to say it's an untold story of loneliness of this whole generation of kids that have no siblings. And then
Yeah,
you talk to them and you say like, so what was it like? And they're like, that's my brother, that's my sister. And you're like, oh, they're like your actual siblings? No, they're my cousins. But
right.
I made them my siblings because I wanted siblings and they're kind of the same age. So I made them that. But really, they're not that. I got cousins and siblings. It's different. The level of intimacy. And I think all of these things, they compound with the pressure, with the political pressure, with the general feeling of there not being any objective truth anywhere. Where as an American, the truth is eroding, I think, because of Trumpism, because of everything that led to Trumpism. It's not like Trumpism came from space. But
Right.
now when you have people that don't share your truth at all, it just makes it very difficult to even deal with them when they go like, well, the January 6th insurrection didn't happen.
Right.
Vaccines are 5G implants or whatever. How do you talk to a
9/11
person like that?
happened. Yeah, just
Yeah,
crazy
but
thing.
imagine being Chinese and you being the crazy one just for thinking that maybe these last 70 years weren't so good. Maybe Mao really did kill tens of millions of people. Maybe really the Cultural Revolution destroyed Chinese culture, like a large part of it. Maybe the Tiananmen thing should be talked about, however you look at it. And maybe there are so many things that are being kept under the rug, but you're the crazy one because everybody looks at you and goes like, ah, you're an anti-vaxxer basically, or you're like, you believe in bending spoons with your mind or whatever. Because really, most people they think they think you're very strange for having these doubts, but you have these doubts, and then yeah, it gets very lonely. I think there is no real community for people that feel like maybe this country needs some reckoning again. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely speak my truth, at least. Like, I definitely had a very lonely childhood. I called my cousin Jie and, Gaga and everything like that. And you're right, they're not siblings. It's different because they have different parents, so they have different values than you do, and it's very lonely. And maybe that's why I have depression, because it's
Well,
like
we
it's
don't
nice.
know.
We don't know, we don't know, but yeah, you're right. And I guess like there's two other things I wanted to touch upon because we're talking about
Yeah.
this Chengdu suicide thing. So one is about the Gaokao, right? And the other one is about the bullying. So I'll talk about the bullying first. So I don't know if you were aware of this, Lale, but in China, like the teachers are like they're notorious. They can be notorious for being bullies, right? As well as the other students. So like for example, like when I was going to kindergarten in China, the teachers, they definitely hit you with like rulers and needles, and they'll like lock you in the bathroom, and they'll like call you out and make you feel really stupid. um, and a lot of the teachers, they need like extra income, so they'll have parents, they'll require parents to take these like tutoring lessons after school for
Hmm.
like, large amounts of money that they parents probably can't afford, or else they won't like treat their kids well or like give them good grades. So it's just it's like it's that also contributes, I'm sure, to depression in children. Like I was looking at statistics, and they were saying that like 63% of Chinese children say they've been bullied by their teacher, which is incredible. um
Yeah.
yeah, so that was the the first thing that I kind of wanted to get your reaction on. And then, and also what are the teachers like in Germany? And then the second, the Gaokao. For like, I'll tell you my opinion about the Gaokao, and then you can tell me what you think about it. So from my understanding, like the Gaokao is, the reason it exists is because China is a communist country, and to create kind of the illusion of a meritocracy, right? You have this Gaokao where everybody takes it, everyone has the equal, quote unquote, equal opportunity to succeed in it. And that's, you know, that's the thing that's like bolstering the concept of like communism. But so from my understanding of the Gaokao, basically kids have to prepare for it ever since from the day they enter school until they go to college, right? And they don't really get to have a childhood, and they don't get to live and like have fun until after the Gaokao. And it's like kind of opposite in America, where like children, I mean, have fun throughout their, you know, like elementary school, middle school, high school, you kind of have to hunker down, and then they party again in college. So yeah, so and also I'd be interested to know what Germany's like too. So you know, I prefer the American way, because like once you lose your childhood, you can't get that back. And I lost my childhood, but I lost it because I was an immigrant in America, so I had to work. But like it's you know, it's definitely a sad thing to not have a childhood. And so I just wanted to know what you thought about it, and also what it's like in Germany.
I wouldn't really know, and I don't know if that's anything systemic, or if that's you know, just kind of anecdotal. I can't really imagine Chinese teachers in general not being teachers. You know, I think my experience from the German school system was that a lot of teachers, they go into the school system thinking, I was once a student, I kind of felt like school could be better, so I decided to become a teacher, and I wanted to make it better. And then they become bitter when they realize they can't make it better, because the system is what it is, and you can play your new progressive whatever class all day long, but it's not going to make a difference. And then a lot of teachers, they kind of give up, and they got tenure, they show up, and they're like, you know, whatever.
Oh,
I cannot imagine Chinese teachers going into the teaching system, becoming teachers, and all of them being callous from the beginning. I think a lot of them must have the same kind of motivation as German teachers or American teachers, to think like, I'm going to teach some kids. But then once you're in that system, it might turn out that it's
easy. Oh my, we are reaching the end of my
oh, that's okay. I mean,
headphones.
no worries, no worries. I mean, no, we had a really great conversation anyway. So I don't want to take up any more of your time.
No, it's good. It's good. I'm having fun. I'm just talking too much, but that's what I do.
No, I love it. I love it. It's very therapeutic. I'm like learning so much about myself just by listening to you talk. It's very interesting. It's very like you're very good with making astute observations about the Chinese culture, and about like the consequences it has on like the people. And then when I think about it, it like, yeah, it's like I'm thinking about it when you're saying it, and it's very profound, I have to say.
And that tells you like every single one of them, every single one of these deaths has a class and a school and friends and fellow kids around them and families that are impacted. And every single one is going to generate rumors and people talking about it, people thinking, why did this happen? Because suicide is something that is unbelievable from the outside, because, you know, Robin Williams, again, like that kid was always playing soccer. Why would he do that now? So there's so many little Chengdu, what was it, 49? So many little incidents where maybe there is no kind of digging for the grand conspiracy, but people are still asking questions, and the kids are being traumatized. The parents are being just, I mean, it's got to be shattering their lives. And there's just so many of these instances. If it's 100,000 per year, even if China is like a huge place with a lot of people, that just means that like sooner or later, everybody's going to be impacted indirectly or directly.
Right. No, I mean, that's absolutely right. And before, you know, before we went on live, I was telling you, Lele, that, you know, even in my own family, I've been impacted by suicide as well. My cousin committed suicide due to stresses for working at a particular company that I won't mention. Yeah, she did the same thing as the 17-year-old boy in Sindhu did. She, got on top of a hotel in the Hilton in London, and she jumped off due to the stress. So definitely, definitely, I agree with you that eventually you'll find somebody that's been impacted by this sort of thing.
Yeah, the problem being that the pain that suicide takes away for the people that complete it successfully doesn't go away. It gets transferred to other people because I don't know, person A doesn't want to live anymore because the pain is too much. Well, then they don't live anymore, and other people have to deal with the fact that they don't live anymore, and they got pain now. And so, yeah, it just tears a hole again in the fabric.
Right.
And if it happens so much at that scale of 100,000, I can imagine the damage to be quite substantial within Chinese young people.
And it goes to that saying too, right? Like hurt people hurt people.
Yeah,
so
of course.
A whole society of hurt people hurting people.
Yeah, and we were talking right at the beginning about how the school and the authorities in this Chengdu 49 incident, how they didn't allow the parents or anybody else for that matter to talk to the fellow students of that kid, right? Mm-hmm. Because the kid died, and then maybe some other kids are traumatized by it, losing their friend, or maybe if he isn't a friend, it's still really like a huge impact. And then you don't allow them to talk to outsiders about it, because the official version was kind of, yeah, what if they make up rumors, what if they like make the situation worse? And they're like, I got comments even saying like, what if they're girls, because girls, they make up a lot of crazy stories. But I'm like, I don't know. I mean, boys also make up a bunch of stories. I've been a boy, but kind of shielding again people from difficult situations. I don't know if that makes the situation more easy for them, for these fellow students, because maybe they need an outlet. Maybe they want to talk to somebody, even if it's some nosy outside person. You could ask those outside people if they're talking to them for the good of the students or for their own good. And that's a moral question to ask and to answer. But to just disallow the students from engaging with anybody for what society's good, I don't know if that's really good. There's again then a culture of secrecy, and you're being left alone with the fact that the guy that you knew that was always sitting there, he doesn't exist anymore, and he did it himself, and you're supposed to kind of come to terms with that on your own when you're 16. I don't know how you're supposed to do that.
It's quite common too, right? Like when we decided on this topic to discuss, I was doing some research, and it seems like there's like teenage deaths, suicides in China is quite and jumping off buildings as the means to do it. It seems quite common. And like I was looking, since you have your statistic, I have also this other statistic. So suicide is the 5th leading cause of death in China and accounts for 1/4 of suicides worldwide. I mean, I don't know what it is for Germany and USA, so I can't compare, but it does seem to be a pretty big issue. I don't believe it's top 5 for the USA. And you're right, it's probably due to like a lot of like repressed emotion, not dealing with your emotions, those kids that didn't get to talk about what happened, like how is it going to manifest later on in life? We don't know. And like these are all very good questions. Yeah, these are all very good questions that parents over there and the teachers over there, they don't even know like the psychological impacts that this stuff is going to have, because they themselves don't know. So
yeah. Well, and they themselves were left alone with their own traumas. So if a person is a teacher now and they're 50, 60, then do the math, which I can't obviously because I'm white. But you're gonna end up in probably them being young during the Cultural Revolution, and having seen shit that you and me cannot imagine, like literal shit, violence, and then being kind of told like, yeah, that happened, but let's pretend it wasn't real, and let's just move on. And they're supposed to deal with these kids that are in a totally different environment, in a different reality, and then deal with these things like, oh, a kid committed suicide. What happened there? Let's pretend it didn't happen. Let's put a cover over it. Let's not allow media to talk about it, kids to talk about it. Let the parents just shut up, and yeah, then everything is going to be good. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be good.
So I gotta tell you, and I don't know if you've observed this. I'm sure, I feel like you must have, but maybe you haven't. Have you ever like gone to China and see the difference between how the adults in China treat children in general versus how the adults in, and I can only say America because I haven't been to Germany, but adults in America treat children in America? Because when I first had my kid, my dad was shocked. He was like, why are Americans so, like every single one would like, you know, say hi to the kid, would come down to their level, would like, you know, just like comment and just be very like friendly to the kids. And then you know, in China, it's not like that at all. Kids are pretty much ignored. I remember when I was there and I was 9 years old visiting at a train station, I got pushed into the railroad tracks and no one really noticed. So,
Okay.
yeah, so that was like a bit of a culture shock, for us at least, you know, because it was the first, when we came to America too, I was young, so it weirded my parents out so much that strangers would come up to us and like be like, oh, your daughter's so cute, and like pay attention to your like kid, because it just never happened
Interesting.
in China.
Probably, yeah. I think I get that feeling a lot. Like I never see China for what it really is. I see it through my own lens, obviously. And sometimes I get comments on my videos and they tell me like, ah, thank you for sharing the real China from like the objective outsider's perspective, but they're really wrong because I'm not providing a real or more real perspective. I'm just providing a different perspective. And often my perspective is totally distorted. For example, in this aspect, like I walk around and everyone's like, here, my kid, hug my kid, you know, or like, let me tell you about my family secrets, or let me tell you about my political views, but they are not going to share these things with each other. They share them
Oh,
because I'm like this walking safe space. You know, I'm a
right.
foreigner. I dropped in with an airplane. I walk around. I'm a tourist. I find everything awesome. And then they go like, do you want to hear what the Cultural Revolution was like? And the person next to me is like, Mom, you never told me that. Why do you tell him that? And it's like, well, it kind of just came. It came because it's me. It came because I'm outside of the system. And then I would go back and tell people like, Chinese people, they're so open, they share so much. No, they're not. They don't. They just share with me.
Wait, so how did you figure that out? That
Um,
exclusive to you. How did you figure it out?
well, it takes a lot of trial and error. I think I was thinking about it the other day. I do a lot of mansplaining. I'm guilty of mansplaining. I mansplain all kinds of things to people. Um, but the way I often do it in my own observation is I will kind of test an observation or a hypothesis that I have. I will be like, Angel, let me tell you about this thing that I figured out. And then I'm going to say something to you and see what you say about it.
Okay.
And this is going to give me the opportunity to kind of revise it or maybe affirm it. And a lot of the times, maybe I would talk to a Chinese person and be like, yeah, Chinese people are super trusting. And, you know, they tell me everything. It's like this cool society where everybody's super open. They'd be like, no, not to me. And then there's another Chinese person. They're like, yeah, not to me either. And then after a while, you put together the pieces of the puzzle and you're like, ah, they're saying that to me, but not to other Chinese people. And you kind of get somewhere by first sharing these hypotheses that you have that are just kind of, I don't know, not ripe yet, you know, they're kind of immature. You just kind of put them out there and see what happens, and a lot of the times it's just crap.
Yeah, but I think your ultimate observations and your ultimate conclusions are absolutely like astute, and correct is not the right word, but like it's astute is the right word. Like I don't think like your view of China, your view of the human experience in China, and your view of like the social constructs and limitations in China are off at all. And I would say it's more on the mark than most of the things that I hear from anyone Chinese. And I think it's because you're an outsider too. You know, I mean, I often say this. I feel like the greatest like social commentators of America, like the comedians, are outsiders, right? Like the ones from England, Trevor Noah's from South Africa. So I feel like it's easier to like look at a society and make observations when you're an outsider after you get through the rough patch that you were talking about, or like the confusing parts where you're like, wait, are they treating me this way because of my color?
Yeah.